everyone. Welcome back to another thought provoking episode of X Raised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. Today, we're diving into the brilliant mind of someone who's equal parts strategist, barrister, legal thought leader, and tech innovator. If there's a real life proof that law and math can coexist with flair, it's her. She's a construction law powerhouse, the 2021 Female Barrister of the Year, a top 100 women in construction, and the author of widely studied legal text. But more than that, she's now building the future of legal research through AI with a company that's making high trust, precision based legal insights accessible to every lawyer, not just the big ones, but also the other ones who can't really get into the big game. She's also a recognized thought leader and the kind of person who makes you wonder if she has more hours in her day than the rest of us. So I won't let you wait any longer. Here's the CEO and co-founder of MiAI Law, the tenacious and tireless force. That is Laina Chan. Hey, Laina, welcome back to X Raised.
Thank you. I love your introductions. They get better every time.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just get it from your accomplishments. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Again, it's an honor to have you here, Lena. Thanks for joining me despite your busy schedule. I'm pretty excited to unpack not just your vision behind My AI Law, but also the very principles that have guided your remarkable legal journey. So let's dive right in. You've built a very impressive career in law, tackling complex disputes, but then you pivoted into AI driven legal research, which is not the obvious leap. And what got you into the world of law and what led you to this shift into legal tech?
Well, it's quite funny, really, because I'm Chinese, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And I'm sure any Chinese person out there knows that your parents always want you to be a doctor. But so I did, yes. So
Yeah.
I did work experience at a hospital, and I thought, oh my God, I really cannot cope with being a doctor.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. And then I thought, oh my God, it just always seems to be just people with hemorrhoids and hemorrhoid surgeries, and it's just horrible. I do not want to be a doctor. But I didn't really know what I wanted to be, but I got the marks. And so I thought I'll just try the law. And people had always said, my relatives had always said, you should do law, because, you love arguing, etc. But I wasn't sure because my mother was a legal secretary when
Okay.
she was, young, and it didn't seem very exciting to me. But anyway, I did law. And then as time went on, and when I started working, I had the privilege of working for two judges in the Court of Appeal in the Supreme Court of New South Wales. And that really opened up my eyes. And after the first 6 months, the Court of Appeal judge that I was working for, he went away on sabbatical for 6 months. I think he went to Oxford. And
Mhm.
he arranged for me to work with the president of the New South Wales Court of Appeal, Michael Kirby, the Honorable Michael Kirby. And he gave me all these judgments, all these appeals to have a look at. And I prepared drafts for him to review. And
Okay.
I just find it really, really interesting. Each draft that I prepared for him to review took about 3 weeks, and it was a really laborious process. I had to always read the appeal books 3 times, and then I had to get on top of it. The first time I would read it, it would feel really vague to me, and I would just keep reading it, and it would get more and more into it and more on top of the facts. And then I would do all the research. I'd look at the submissions, and I'd prepare these drafts for him. And generally, I think every draft that I prepared for him, he accepted, and he would circulate it, the conclusions and the reasoning. And
Mhm.
he would circulate the drafts to the other judges, and the other judges would agree. And I remember him saying to me, Justice X agrees with your conclusion, etc. It was very exciting and really rewarding. And
Yeah.
then I became a solicitor in big law, and
Mhm.
you don't really get to do much legal research and writing there. But the job of a solicitor is different. It's more administrative. We just don't have the time to spend so much time doing legal research. And
Mhm.
I remember my boss at the time saying to me, Lena, you do not have to reinvent the wheel every single time you're given, some legal problem to solve. You can just read what some textbook says is the
Yeah.
answer. But that was the complete opposite of what I had learned at the courts, where the judge said you have to track everything back to first principles, to the very first case that decided this issue. And this one particular case we were talking about was married women's equity. And he said, you can't just start with the very second case, which was back in the 1600s. You have to track your way all the way back to the first case ever. And so then I just thought, I just preferred that thorough way of thinking and working, but I didn't really get a chance to practice that for the 8 years that I was a solicitor. Then
Yeah.
after that, I went to the bar, became a barrister, and that was when I could then revert to form. And that was when I could then use again everything I had learned working with the Court of Appeal judges. And then from there, I realized as a barrister how much grind there is, to find the case on point, to find the case that is closest to the case that you're arguing over. Takes so much work, so much research. You have to troll through so many cases in the database to find that one case. And it's only after you find that one case and you've gotten on top of your facts that you can then craft the legal argument. And so what I wanted from the time AI came out, like a year and a half ago, was a way of cutting down that burden of being able to find that case on point much faster. And so that more time could be spent value adding to the legal principles and the legal cases and the facts of the case, rather than not wasting, but having to go through the drudgery of finding that needle in the haystack.
So time consuming.
Yes.
And basically, you took all the meticulous, hair-pulling aspects of legal research, from legal briefs to AI blueprints, talk about career evolution with intent. It's just amazing how necessity, experience, and a hint of curiosity can birth world-class innovation, Laina. And honestly, that's kind of thinking that changes industries. And your approach to legal strategy isn't just about, knowing the law. It's also about seeing the broader system in play. So how do you develop that level of insight when handling complex cases? I mean, is it pure experience, or is there a method to the madness?
Well, first of all, I don't think anything can beat experience, because I think you actually learn more from your losses than you learn from your wins. Because every time you've lost the case, you think, oh my goodness, why did I lose that? What can I have done better? What can I change, etc. So it's very, very educational to actually lose. But then on top of that, I'm also an academic lawyer. I research and write a lot in peer-reviewed journals. I've written some textbooks, and by doing that, and by doing this worldwide research and researching on areas that they're cutting edge. I don't like to write about things that other people have written about. So I'm always trying to push the border, always push the boundaries of legal knowledge. And then by doing that, you then see patterns across different areas of law. And you can only do that with experience. When you work for quite a long time, you know quite a bit of law, that you then realize that there are patterns that can be drawn between different areas of law. And then, of course, the more I know, the less I feel that I know. So that now I've reached a point that I feel like I know nothing, because I know there's so much out there that I don't know, that now I feel like I know nothing. But that can't be right. But it's just that the more you know, the more I realize how much more there is to know.
Right.
And relative to that, how little I know. And hopefully my AI will be able to help me draw the patterns and troll through the data much easier, the cases much easier, to help me draw the links and the patterns and craft the strategy for the clients in a less painful way.
Yeah, in a shorter period of time. And
in a shorter period of time, that's right.
So it's a mix of learned wisdom, pattern recognition, and let's be honest, some legal war woods along the way, as you said, where you get your learning from.
Losses, that's right.
And I mean, you're right. Trial and error is a thing too. It's humbling, but it's the ultimate teacher, right?
Yes.
Now, aside from knowing,
I've heard. I've heard
sorry.
there's some legal tech startups, and I've heard more than one, that they've struggled to find that killer product. But then in those particular startups that I've been told about, and they're from across the world, not just America, but in Asia as well.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to find that killer product. And then I look into how experienced the founders are, and they don't seem to be very experienced. They're lawyers, but they don't seem to have worked more than a year or two in industry before they started their firm. And I just don't know how you could know enough about the pain points of lawyers and what have you really learned as a graduate, because you know nothing. I knew nothing.
Right.
I definitely knew nothing when I'd only worked for a couple of years.
Experience really matter.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, aside
Losses.
from, yeah,
Losses really
and
matter.
losses.
That's right.
Now, aside from knowing the ins and outs of case law, Lena, the legal world is also about people, leadership, and adaptability. What core principles have guided you throughout your career?
Well, for me, always that my word is my honor. If I say I'm going to do something for you, you can trust me to do it. And that I will fight for you to the very end. And so you can just always expect my 100% commitment to your case, to the
Mm-hmm.
client's case.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
big.
so it's always that you can trust me, that trustworthiness, that you know that I'll put in my best for you and work my hardest for you.
Yeah. Well said. And you're right. My word is my honor. That should be in every lawyer's oath, I think, and every
It
founder's
should be.
mission statement, right? It's a timeless principle in a rapidly changing world.
Yes.
And I think it's about time we go talk about my AI law, Lena. You're heading the charge in legal AI, which is both exciting and perhaps terrifying for some traditionalists. Being directly involved in its forward thinking initiatives, how do you see technology transforming the legal profession in the coming years?
Well, I have to be honest. What we're trying to achieve now has not, it's not been achieved by anyone, not by LexisNexis, not by Thomson Reuters, not by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is to deliver deep research by researching over a curated database
Mm-hmm.
and a curated list of websites of primary sources of cases and legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're trying to do is to use AI to help extract the principles from each case. We're not going to secondary materials to see what secondary materials say these cases mean to
Mm-hmm.
help us work out what the answers are to the questions that users pose to us. We're actually going to deliver deep research from first principles, from looking at the primary cases, and nobody has solved this.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've been on this design and development journey now for 11 months,
Yeah.
and it's very hard. And I've asked my co-founder,
Mm-hmm.
what is it about us that will make us be able to deliver what nobody else has been able to deliver?
Uh-huh.
And I've signed up a delivery team to deliver the first iteration of our product, which I like to call the equivalent of iPhone 1. That will be ready in 12 weeks, and
Uh-huh.
then another 2 weeks for testing and deployment, etc. But we've got a 12-week timeline plus another 2 weeks for fine tuning, etc. But that's just our first iteration. And my delivery team are highly, highly credentialed. And the guy leading the team, he's got a postdoctorate and he's been building AI for 12 years and he's highly, highly credentialed. And when I asked him, what is it about us,
Mm-hmm.
my AI, that's going to be able to deliver where everybody else has failed? And he said, it's you and me. It's you and me, him, not you,
Yeah.
not you.
It's your team
But
up.
him and me, that together working, will be able to deliver this. Because he
Yeah.
said that he's spoken to other startups before, legal startups, trying to deliver what we are going to deliver. And he says they just have not had a clear concept of idea of what it is they want to achieve.
And you have that
And
in your mind.
yes, and I know exactly what I
Yeah.
want to achieve. And he knows how to, and he
Execute
knows
it.
how to deliver that. And he's very, very credentialed, and I guess he's like the tech version of me. He says to me, I'm not very smart, but I get shit done. And I go, that's very funny because you're obviously very smart. But that's basically, but
I
basically
like him
that's,
already.
yeah, I
I
know he's
haven't
very
met him
funny.
yet, but I like him already.
Yeah,
Let's bring
exactly.
him in.
And then I feel the same. I said, I just feel, I mean, I know how to research, but like I said to you, I just feel like I don't know that much.
Uh-huh. Well,
But I think it's the combination of it's his expertise, my expertise, and our
mhm.
experience, and then our go-getter attitude. I think that's what it is, right? That we think we together we will solve this problem.
Yes.
Anyway, they've been properly briefed. They've got all my algorithms. They've got all my system prompts, legal prompts, all kinds of prompts. We've got the architecture. We're building to NVIDIA architecture because NVIDIA is really supporting us and trying to get us into their corporate clients as
Mhm.
well. And so we've got massive support, and the demand is coming to us. I don't really have to go out there and search for the demand. The demand is coming to us. So I just can't wait to see that in 12 weeks. I've asked, I mean, my performance criteria is that we have to have 95% accuracy, and they haven't turned around and said they can't deliver. They said we can't get 100% accuracy, you know, because we are dealing with AI. But my benchmark is that we have to get 95% accuracy.
Wow. So you're aiming for 100%, not 99 point.
Well, no, we're starting off with 95.
Okay.
Starting with 95%. Our first iteration, we're going for 95%, but you know, all our answers are evidence-based and verifiable, will be hyperlinked and to the actual we'll give you the actual paragraph references in the particular judgment so you can check. But you know, we're trying to achieve what nobody else has. So we believe we can.
Yeah. And for as long as you're on the same page with him, with your team in executing this, I guess nothing is impossible. You will be able to reduce the grind so lawyers can focus on strategy. In fact, that's the dream. And finally, an AI that doesn't just automate but elevate. So that's going to be in 40.
That's right. So, totally. We're not just there about trying to exactly. We've got a huge vision of what we want to achieve for the world, and then you know, and that's what I have found disappointing in some of the VCs that I've spoken to, that they haven't had this huge vision of what I have for my AI, and they're very insular in what they think that I might be able to achieve. And I just want to only work with people who can share my vision of what it is we're going to be able to deliver for the world. I mean, not just the lawyers, but eventually the clients are the ones who benefit from what we're seeking to achieve.
Yes, we're heading towards a world where AI does the heavy lifting because lawyers will make smarter decisions and everyone will save time and money, which is absolutely a win for humanity, Laina. And let's step outside of the courtroom and the legal tech space for a moment, because I want to know, who is Laina Chan when she's off the clock and out of the tech bubble? We want to know what fuels your passion beyond the law.
Well, I asked my husband this.
Okay.
And he said that you're always on a quest for self-improvement. But it's true. I always like to do something that extends myself. But obviously but I should say, after a very hard day at work, I just like to watch Bimbo TV, right? I just like to just tune off and watch Bimbo TV or read a trashy book, because then I can completely turn my brain off and I can just read that. But otherwise, I just like to always have a project, whether it's renovating properties or designing stuff or decorating or, you know, getting fit or rowing. Or I rowed for a few years in the master's program until I had 2 really bad back injuries. And that happened about in 2016. And I haven't rowed since then because it was so bad. I couldn't even walk for like 20 meters without being in excruciating pain. So, but apart from that, I always make sure I stay fit so I can go for my annual ski trip where I go skiing for 6 weeks, at least 6 weeks every year. But otherwise, I'm always looking to do something that will improve me. So in the past, maybe not so much in the last year, I'm always working on a paper or a book or something like that, because I just always want to push myself and make myself be better than I am.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. In addition to being a legal mastermind, Laina, you also have this amazing life because you're into continuous learning and improvement. And, you know, you mentioned renovating properties, working out, and also writing construction law chapters, right? I mean, I don't know how you do everything. Your version of downtime sounds like an Olympic event to me. I am like, oh, wait, when do you rest?
Told you when I'm watching on my Bimbo TV.
Okay, and your hair.
I just binged on White Lotus, and then I just binged on Running Point on Netflix. With Kate Hudson. I really resonated with her. I watched it twice.
Really?
Episodes 1 to 10. I just liked it so much.
I only started it, but I haven't finished it. So I'm on episode 1 still. But clearly, your mind really doesn't rest. So it's amazing. And before we wrap up, Laina, I have to bring up one of your more thought-provoking pieces, A World Without Lawyers. It's a bold title, to say the least. What moved you to write this piece, and what do you hope readers take away from it?
Well, maybe because my co-founder, Fred, he believes non-lawyers believe that you can have a world without lawyers, and they think that everything can be automated when you're not a lawyer. They think that, right? That you can
Okay.
have an automated judge, you can have automated lawyers, everybody's automated.
Yeah.
But then I know from having worked in this profession for a long time, and in the last week, I got to work with the number one commercial silk in Australia. We worked closely for a whole week preparing for an appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what he brought to the table. He produced and directed the whole, I mean, I wrote all the speaking notes from him, which he used in court, but he directed it and produced it and brought his considerable experience to bear in how we presented the argument. And AI can't do that, because how on earth would AI know how his mind thinks?
Mm-hmm.
And that experience, I don't think you can dispense with it. And I think the only way you can have a world without lawyers is if you completely do away with lawyers, so that all you have is AI being the lawyers and AI being the judge. So that then you take every subjective element out of it, then you are only looking at the case law,
Mm-hmm.
and the facts, and everything is just done by someone has written the program. However they write it, there'll be
Mm-hmm.
biases baked into that. And of course, there's biases baked into the cases as well, because the cases are decided by humans, and
Uh-huh.
humans have their own particular biases. But then if you remove all of the human in that loop where you have all the lawyers and the judges be just automated, then yes, maybe you can have a world without lawyers. But I don't think that's humans are going to allow that. That
Yeah.
ultimate humans are the ones who are going to be controlling the AI. And I think humans and experience bring a lot to the table.
I mean, it's a big question how precise that would be, right? And how accurate it would be. But
And
anyway,
it's completely dependent on how the model is built.
correct. How it's
And the
programmed.
models are generally built by humans. And so
Mhm.
whatever biases that they are and the data that they use, there's biases in the data, and it's how you treat the data. So for example, we make sure that when we are extracting or chunking our database with all the cases, we know who all the judges are. And so we're tracking how particular judges
Yeah.
react to certain evidence and certain
Mhm.
causes of action, so that we know, because we know that not every judge behaves in the same way.
Mhm. Well, and also that distinction that you said between AI's efficiency and, say, a seasoned advocate's judgment, that's gold. AI, yes, can parse data, but it can't yet interpret the soul of justice, at least not with a lawyer like you at the helm. So, from strategy in the courtroom to system design in legal tech, Lena, today's conversation reminds us that innovation doesn't mean forgetting tradition. It means building on it with sharper tools and deeper wisdom. So, thank you so much for another fantastic conversation. Insightful, inspiring, and a little intimidating because of how much you've accomplished. We appreciate you sharing your journey and expertise, and, of course, your vision for the future of law. Thank you.
Thanks, Miles. Until next time.
Yes. For those watching or listening, if you want to learn more about her, check out lainachanbarrister.com or connect with her on LinkedIn, and be sure to head over to myai.law to know more about their groundbreaking platform. And of course, be sure to read A World Without Lawyers, as it'll change the way you think about the legal world. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to share and follow us for more deep dives with industry leaders like Lena. Until next time, this has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X Raised.